Evening settles over Lisbon, draping the city in soft, golden hues, its rooftops aglow beneath the fading summer sun. The Tagus River, wide and eternal, carries the scent of salt and distant voyages, mingling with the delicate sweetness of blooming jacaranda trees, whose violet petals tremble in the warm breeze. Gas street lamps flicker to life, their gentle glow reflecting off azulejo-covered facades, casting intricate patterns onto the cobblestones below. The soft murmur of conversation drifts from open cafes, where men in tailored suits and pocket watches sip their evening bica, discussing politics, poetry, and the affairs of the empire. Somewhere beyond a narrow street, a Fado singer's voice rises, rich with longing, curling through the air like smoke. The melancholic strumming of a guitarra Portuguesa spills from a dimly lit tavern, a lullaby for the city, a song of memory and fate. This is Lisbon in the year 1915, a time of quiet elegance and timeless charm, where carriages roll over cobblestone streets. The glow of shopfront lanterns invites weary travelers, and the scent of freshly baked bread lingers in the evening air. Let us take a gentle stroll through these streets, where the past whispers in every shadow, and the night holds the promise of dreams yet to come. Take a slow, deep breath in, and exhale, letting the day slip away. You begin at Miraduro de São Pedro de Alcântara, a serene terrace perched high above Lisbon, offering a sweeping panorama of the city below. The last light of twilight stretches across the skyline, casting long, golden shadows over the pastel-colored facades that tumble down the hills toward the river. A soft evening breeze stirs the air, carrying the mingling scents of jacaranda blossoms and the faint aroma of roasted chestnuts from a nearby vendor. The symmetrical gardens that frame the terrace are trimmed with precision, their geometric paths leading the eye toward the azulejo panels, artistic tiles depicting Lisbon's history in deep cobalt and ivory white. Each tile whispers a story of great voyages, of poets who once walked these very streets, of kings who once ruled over a vast empire. The gas lamps along the balustrade flicker to life, their soft light catching the polished leather shoes of a group of well-dressed gentlemen, their three-piece suits immaculate, their conversation low, deliberate, measured. The crisp folds of their pocket squares hint at a world of refinement and whispered intrigue. Nearby, a group of women in lace-trimmed gowns stand in quiet contemplation, the delicate embroidery of their dresses illuminated by the last golden glow of the sun. A young couple lingers in the shadows, their hands brushing ever so slightly, their voices hushed. Their world is shrinking into just this moment, their hearts racing with the quiet anticipation of love, while the city around them hums with life. Below, Lisbon moves to its own unhurried rhythm. Carriages clatter over the cobblestones, their wooden wheels producing a rhythmic song that blends with the distant melody of Fado drifting from a tucked-away tavern in the alleys of Bairro Alto. Laughter drifts upward, interwoven with the occasional call of a newspaper vendor, his voice announcing the latest headlines. The river's briny scent, fresh and cool, rises on the wind, mingling with the warmth of the city's heartbeat. The aroma of fresh bread, the perfume of passing strangers, the distant traces of tobacco smoke curling through the lamplight. Somewhere in the distance, a church bell tolls, its deep, sonorous chime marking the passage of time, slow, unhurried, eternal. You inhale deeply, letting the crisp evening air fill your lungs, allowing the stillness to settle within you. Here, in this place where past and present intertwine, you are simply being, a quiet observer in the grand unfolding of time. A short walk down the gently worn, stone-paved sidewalk leads to the Elevador da Glória, one of Lisbon's most modern marvels of engineering. Installed in 1885, this funicular railway has since become an essential part of daily life, effortlessly carrying passengers up and down the city's steep hills, linking the lively Bairro Alto with the grandeur of Restauradores Square below. At the top of the hill, the mustard yellow wooden carriage sits in quiet anticipation, its brass fittings polished to a warm glow beneath the flickering gas lights. The faint scent of aged timber lingers in the cool night air, mingling with the distant aroma of roasting chestnuts from a vendor nearby. A ticket agent in a crisp uniform checks fares as passengers step aboard, some with the weariness of a long day's work, others with the leisurely ease of an evening stroll through the city. The thick steel cables stretch taut down the steep incline, disappearing into the flickering lamplight below. The funicular's motor hums steadily, sending faint vibrations through the cobblestones as it prepares for its descent. A conductor, his jacket buttoned neatly, signals the departure. The doors swing shut with a firm clatter, and with a gentle lurch, the ride begins. Inside, the air is warm, carrying the scent of varnished wood and the faint trace of machine oil, mingling with the sweet aroma of freshly baked bread drifting in from a nearby pasteleria. The polished wooden benches, worn smooth by decades of travelers, bear the weight of merchants, artists, weary laborers, and curious visitors alike. A mother adjusts her son's woolen coat, scolding him softly as he leans eagerly out the window, his laughter ringing into the night as he waves to pedestrians below. The funicular glides downward, its iron wheels clattering softly against the tracks, passing tightly packed buildings adorned with wrought iron balconies and azulejo-covered facades. The ceramic tiles shimmer under the glow of street lamps, casting intricate reflections onto the cobblestones below. As the descent continues, the street narrows and winds, the balconies of opposite buildings nearly touching. The funicular groans softly against the steep gradient, its steady motion unfazed by the city's ancient terrain. The windows frame glimpses of daily life, an elderly woman tending to potted geraniums, a young man strumming a guitarra Portuguesa, a cat stretching lazily on a windowsill, gazing out at the world as if it, too, is riding the funicular's gentle descent. As the funicular nears the foot of the hill, the street widens into Restauradores Square, its grand facades bathed in golden lamplight. In the distance, the towering silhouette of Castelo de São Jorge rises above the city, its ancient walls standing as a silent sentinel, keeping watch over Lisbon as it has for centuries. The carriage rolls to a gentle stop, and the doors swing open once more. Some passengers depart without pause, melting into the rhythm of the city, while others linger for just a moment, taking in the warmth of the night air before stepping onto the cobblestones. For a brief moment, you were part of it, woven into the timeless heartbeat of Lisbon, where every street has a story, and every ride carries echoes of the past into the present. You find yourself at the threshold of Praça dos Restauradores, where history and elegance intertwine beneath the evening sky. The square, expansive and stately, serves as a monument to Portugal's resilience, its very name commemorating the Restoration War of 1640, when the nation reclaimed its sovereignty from Spanish rule. The buildings that frame it, grandeur etched into every intricate facade and wrought iron balcony, speak of Lisbon's rebirth, their foundations standing firm in a city that has known both ruin and renewal. At its center, a towering obelisk, hewn from pale stone, reaches toward the heavens. Engraved inscriptions upon its surface whisper of past struggles and triumphs, a silent testament to a nation's perseverance. The gaslights flicker, their glow casting long, shifting shadows against the monument, making it seem almost alive, breathing, waiting, remembering. The clip-clop of horse-drawn carriages echoes through the square as they wait in neat rows along the curb, their harnesses polished to a fine gleam beneath the street lamps. The drivers, dressed in crisp coats and hats, call out to passing pedestrians, offering rides through the city's luminous avenues. Couples, wrapped in elegant evening wear, pause in quiet discussion, debating whether to continue their walk or be swept away in the smooth, rolling motion of the carriage. The scent of roasted chestnuts, their skins cracked open by the heat of open flames, curls through the cool night air, mingling with the rich aroma of tobacco from a gentleman lighting a cigar on the steps of the Grand Cafe. Nearby, a violinist, stationed at the corner where the boulevard begins, coaxes a wistful melody from his instrument. The notes rise and fall, drifting over the square like the breath of Lisbon itself, a city that forever sings of its past and dreams of its future. Beyond the square, Avenida da Liberdade stretches ahead, Lisbon's most elegant boulevard, a majestic promenade lined with leafy plane trees, ornate lampposts, and stately 19th century mansions. The patterned sidewalks, paved with intricate black and white mosaics, feel cool beneath your feet as you step forward into a world of refinement and quiet splendor. The city moves with effortless grace here. Women in silk gloves and flowing gowns stroll arm in arm with men in tailored suits, their polished leather shoes clicking softly against the stone. Their conversations drift through the night, light and buoyant, punctuated by the occasional trill of laughter, like wind chimes stirred by the evening breeze. Young couples, newly in love, speak in hushed tones as they pass beneath the warm glow of cafe lanterns, their shadows merging briefly before dissolving again into the night. The boulevard is a stage, a gallery, a moving portrait of Lisbon's most fashionable and affluent. In the softly lit terraces of the grand cafes, men sip espresso and discuss politics, while waiters, dressed in impeccable white jackets, move between tables with unwavering precision. A newsboy, no older than 12, dashes across the avenue, clutching a fresh edition of Diario de Noticias, eager to sell the latest headlines to a group of businessmen. Overhead, tall palms sway gently, their fronds rustling in the breeze, as if whispering secrets to the stars. The boulevard is alive with an unhurried charm, a place where time lingers, and every moment feels like a scene from a beautifully unfolding story, one of elegance, of ambition, of a city standing proudly at the crossroads of tradition and progress. As you step onto the wave-patterned pavement of Praça do Rocio, the black and white mosaics seem to ripple beneath your feet, an illusion of movement that mirrors the ever-changing rhythm of Lisbon itself. The square, long a hub of the city's daily life, bustles with activity and conversation, from well-dressed gentlemen in top hats discussing the latest political affairs to flower vendors adjusting the ribbons on their bouquets. Tram bells chime in the distance, blending with the clip-clop of horse-drawn carriages weaving their way through the nearby streets. At its heart, the Grand D. Maria's II National Theatre stands in regal splendor, its imposing neoclassical columns bathed in the golden glow of gas lamps. The stone pediment, bearing an intricate relief of Gil Vicente, Portugal's first great playwright, watches over the square like a guardian of Lisbon's artistic soul. Below, the Rocio fountains gurgle softly, their sculpted bronze figures gleaming with mist, adding a touch of coolness to the warm night air. Just beyond the cascading water, the famous Café Nicola spills its inviting glow onto the pavement. Inside, Lisbon's poets, intellectuals, and journalists lean forward in animated debate, their words rising and falling in lively cadences, punctuated by the clinking of porcelain coffee cups and the occasional burst of laughter. The honeyed aroma of freshly brewed coffee fills the air, mingling with the rich scent of port wine, poured into delicate glasses that gleam ruby red in the candlelight. A waiter, dressed in a crisp white jacket, glides effortlessly between the tables, balancing a silver tray filled with pastéis de nata, their golden custard tops slightly caramelized from the oven's final kiss. At the edge of the square, a shoe shiner, his cap pulled low, kneels beside a businessman who rests one polished boot upon a wooden stand. The soft, rhythmic whisper of the brush gliding over the leather fills the air as the shoe shiner's skilled hands work with methodical precision, bringing the worn surface to a mirror-like shine. Nearby, street vendors call out their wares, their voices warm and inviting as they offer freshly roasted chestnuts wrapped in newspaper cones, their nutty aroma mingling with the sugary sweetness of travesseros, flaky pastries filled with almond cream. Their small shops, no larger than a single room, are lined with wooden shelves, stacked high with tools, pots of polish, and neatly arranged rows of half-finished shoes. The scent of oiled leather and beeswax lingers in the air, rich and earthy, mingling with the faint hint of tobacco smoke curling from a pipe tucked in the corner of a workbench. A worn wooden door creaks open, and an elderly craftsman peers out, his gaze thoughtful as he studies the quiet street before retreating back into the warm glow of his workshop. Each street in Lisbon is a chapter in its living history, unfolding with every careful step. The past and present intertwine here, stitched together in the worn cobblestones, in the laughter spilling from the cafes, in the patient hands of artisans who continue the traditions of their forefathers. And as the city hums on into the night, one cannot help but feel part of its timeless story, a fleeting presence in a place that remembers everything. The Santa Justa lift rises ahead, an iron masterpiece of modern engineering, standing tall among the tightly packed streets of downtown Lisbon. Since its grand inauguration just a few years prior, in 1902, it has captivated the city's residents and visitors alike. Designed by Raul Mesnier du Ponsard, a Portuguese engineer inspired by the innovations of Gustave Eiffel, the structure is a marvel of the new century. Its neo-Gothic arches and delicate iron filigree forming patterns that cast lace-like shadows under the flickering gas lamps. The lift serves a practical purpose, bridging the steep divide between the lower streets of Baixa and the elevated Carmo Square, sparing weary pedestrians the arduous climb through Lisbon's sloping terrain. Yet, it is also a symbol of progress, a testament to the city's embrace of industrial ingenuity. At its base, a small queue forms, gentlemen in pressed suits and bowler hats, ladies in elegant dresses with gloved hands resting on the arms of their companions, and laborers finishing their day's work. Some take the lift for convenience, eager to avoid the strenuous ascent, while others ride simply for the experience, marveling at this modern wonder. The doors slide open with a soft metallic click, revealing an interior lined with polished wood and gleaming brass fittings, a space of refinement and craftsmanship. As the passengers step inside, the scent of oiled machinery and varnished oak lingers in the enclosed space. The attendant, dressed in a crisp uniform, nods politely before pulling the lever that sets the lift in motion. The gears hum, and the lift begins its slow, graceful ascent, lifting its passengers above the city streets. The narrow lanes of Baisha stretch below, their tiled rooftops bathed in the golden glow of gaslight. The white domes of churches stand like silent sentinels, watching over the bustling streets, while the Tagus River, wide and glistening, reflects the distant lanterns of moored ships, their masts swaying gently in the night breeze. At the top, the lift arrives at Carmo Square, where the ruins of the Carmo convent stand in solemn contrast to the lively city below. The convent, once a grand medieval monastery, still bears the scars of the 1755 earthquake, its roofless nave open to the sky, a haunting reminder of Lisbon's past. Some passengers linger at the observation platform, gazing out over the sprawling cityscape, while others step onto the walkway that leads to Largo do Carmo, disappearing into the winding alleyways of Chiado. Descending once more into Rua Augusta, the city hums with quiet movement. The grand boulevard, paved with intricate black and white mosaics, stretches toward the Arco da Rua Augusta, where the river beckons in the distance. Outdoor cafes glow warmly, their wicker chairs filled with patrons sipping bica, a strong black Portuguese coffee, while nibbling on pastéis de nata, the crisp pastry shells cradling rich golden custard. Their conversations are hushed yet animated, voices rising and falling in the rhythm of the evening. Nearby, shopkeepers in waistcoats and rolled sleeves begin to shutter their storefronts for the night, pausing to exchange a few last words with familiar customers before latching the doors. At the end of Rua Augusta, the Arco da Rua Augusta rises before you, a triumphant gateway to the riverfront. The arch, completed only a few decades prior, still gleams as a symbol of Lisbon's resilience, and rebirth, standing where the old royal palace once did before the great earthquake of 1755. In the warm glow of gas lamps, its marble facade appears almost golden, each intricate carving a reminder of Portugal's storied past. At its summit, statues of glory, valor, and genius look down upon the city, their expressions solemn and watchful. Below them, the figures of Vasco da Gama and the Marquis of Pombal stand immortalized in stone, one a fearless explorer who carried Portugal's ambitions across the seas, the other the architect of Lisbon's reconstruction. The arch itself tells a story of destruction and renewal, of empire and endurance, of a city that, even in the face of ruin, refused to fall. You step beneath its shadow, where the cool night breeze from the Tagus River carries the scent of salt and adventure. It is the breath of a city bound to the sea, where ships still come and go, bringing treasures from distant colonies, Brazilian coffee, African ivory, spices from Goa. The sound of footsteps echoes off the stone as late-night wanderers pass through, pausing to admire the grand reliefs of monarchs and explorers whose names are etched into Lisbon's history. Beyond the arch, the vast Praça do Comércio unfolds, a grand and orderly square that once pulsed with the life of Portugal's maritime empire. Colonnades stretch along its edges, their stately arches casting long shadows across the patterned pavement. Cafes and offices of trading companies glow softly beneath the arcades, where men in tailored suits sip espresso and speak in hushed tones of business, of ships arriving from Brazil, of political unrest in the colonies. The days of empire are changing, but here, in the heart of Lisbon, the past still lingers. At the center of the square, King Jose I sits astride his bronze horse, the towering statue capturing his moment of triumph. He faces the Tagus, his gaze fixed on the horizon, a ruler forever watching over the river that carried Portugal's fleet to the edges of the world. Below him, the stone pedestal is adorned with sculpted serpents trampled under hoof, a symbol of overcoming catastrophe, both the earthquake and the turbulent years that followed. Beyond the square, the Tagus River ripples under the moonlight, its wide surface reflecting the lanterns lining the waterfront. The water glows like molten gold, shifting and shimmering with the ebb and flow of the tide. At the docks, wooden ships bob gently, their sails furled for the night, their masts swaying like silent sentinels. The sound of creaking ropes and lapping waves fills the still air, punctuated by the occasional call of a sailor finishing his last task before seeking rest. Near the customs house, merchants linger in quiet conversation, their long day nearly over. Some count escudos, their fingers moving deftly over leather pouches filled with coins, while others lean against wooden barrels, sharing a flask of fortified wine from Porto. The scent of the night is rich, a mix of freshly caught fish, citrus from crates awaiting transport, and the lingering spice of cloves and cinnamon unloaded from a returning ship. From a dimly lit tavern, the melancholy strains of a Fado song drift into the square, its melody curling through the air like the tide. A woman's voice, low and aching, sings of longing and farewell, of loves lost to the sea, of men who never returned from voyages to faraway lands. The song lingers, suspended between past and present, just as this place does, a threshold between Lisbon's golden age and the uncertain tides of the century ahead. A short walk along Rua da Prata, past the dim glow of shuttered shop fronts and the occasional murmur of late-night pedestrians, leads to the arrival of Tram 28, one of Lisbon's newest electric marvels. The wooden carriage, painted a fresh shade of yellow and white, hums as it approaches, its brass fixtures gleaming under the flickering gas lamps. The city, once accustomed to the steady rhythm of horse-drawn trams, now marvels at these modern electricos, their quiet efficiency, a sign of progress. The doors swing open with a soft clatter, and you step inside. The scent of freshly varnished wood and warm metal filling the air. The polished mahogany benches, their surfaces smooth from eager hands, and restless travelers line the tram's narrow interior. The driver, clad in his uniform, adjusts the levers with practiced ease, his gloved hands guiding the tram forward as it begins its ascent. Near the front, an elderly gentleman with a neatly waxed mustache sits with quiet dignity, his overcoat perfectly pressed despite the late hour. He lifts his hat in a courteous nod to a passing lady in a lace-trimmed dress, their eyes meeting in a fleeting yet meaningful exchange, a silent acknowledgement of old-world propriety in a swiftly changing Lisbon. The tram lurches forward, its steel wheels clattering over the cobbled tracks, sending gentle vibrations through the wooden floor beneath your feet. The cityscape shifts outside the wide-paned windows. The broad, orderly avenues of Baixa give way to the winding, intimate alleyways of Alfama, where the past clings to every worn stone. The tram winds up the steep, twisting streets, navigating effortlessly where carriages would struggle, a testament to the power of electric ingenuity. The balconies of Alfama's whitewashed homes lean in close, their iron railings adorned with freshly washed linens swaying in the night breeze. The glow of oil lanterns flickers from within, casting golden light onto potted geraniums and ivy creeping up the walls. The scent of baking bread and simmering bacalhau drifts through open shutters, mingling with the salty breath of the river beyond. From an unseen courtyard, the soft strumming of a guitarra Portuguesa spills into the night, carrying the familiar, melancholic strains of Fado, its melody weaving through the narrow streets like a whispered prayer. At each stop, passengers step on and off, their footsteps light against the wooden platform. A baker, his apron dusted with flour, boards with a wrapped parcel for a waiting shopkeeper, exchanging a few coins and a nod before disembarking. A group of young men in newsboy caps, their spirits high, share quiet laughter as they lean against the tram's polished brass handrails, speaking of future prospects and distant colonies. The tram's lantern casts moving shadows on the slick cobblestones below, where an old widow, wrapped in a black shawl, watches from her doorway, her gaze distant as she observes the world pass by. Further ahead, the spires of St. George Castle rise above the rooftops, silhouetted against the night sky. The castle, standing watch over Lisbon for centuries, remains unchanged even as the city moves forward with electric light and modern ambition. The tram rattles on, carrying you deeper into Lisbon's storied heart, where the weight of history and the pull of progress intertwine, each turn revealing a new glimpse of a city on the edge of transformation. Stepping off at Sé de Lisboa, the cathedral looms tall, its ancient stones kissed by candlelight. Inside, monks move in silence, their whispered prayers blending with the solemn echoes of footsteps on stone. The final stretch of your journey winds through the heart of Alfama, Lisbon's oldest district, where the streets feel as if they have barely changed in centuries. The cobbled alleys, uneven and time-worn, twist and narrow between whitewashed buildings, their wrought iron balconies draped with drying linens that sway gently in the night breeze. The path is quiet, but not empty. A cat slinks across the street, pausing beneath a lantern's glow before disappearing through an open doorway. From within, the scent of stew simmering on a cast-iron stove drifts into the air, mingling with the floral perfume of jasmine creeping along the walls. Somewhere above, a shutter creaks open, revealing the silhouette of a woman taking clothes off the clothesline, her face turned toward the river, lost in thought. Ahead, the street begins to climb, and the flat road gives way to stairs, their centuries-old stone worn smooth by generations of footsteps. A man carrying a basket of fresh bread descends, nodding in quiet acknowledgement as he passes. The rhythmic sound of your own footsteps echoes between the close walls, accompanied only by the rustling of a newspaper left behind on a windowsill, fluttering in the breeze. Higher and higher you go, ascending terrace by terrace, until at last the streets open onto a wide balcony of stone, the Miradouro das Portas do Sol. The final stretch of your journey winds through the heart of Alfama, Lisbon's oldest district, where the streets feel as if they have barely changed in centuries. The cobbled alleys, uneven and time-worn, twist and narrow between whitewashed buildings, their wrought iron balconies draped with drying linens that sway gently in the night breeze. At the railing, a poet lingers, notebook in hand, his eyes scanning the skyline as he searches for the right words. A slight breeze turns a page, but he is too lost in thought to notice. Nearby, a group of night watchmen in dark cloaks lean against the stone wall, speaking in low voices, their lanterns flickering at their feet. You inhale deeply, the scent of the river and distant orange blossoms settling into your senses, and exhale slowly, releasing the last weight of the day. Lisbon bids you good night, wrapping you in its timeless embrace. Sleep now, cradled in the lull of the past, as the city watches over you, its stories whispering softly through the night. Good night.